I don't know what here happened. Okay guys, let's talk about the inverter I have ordered so we can finalize our project. This is one of the most important components actually for our system. Well, you thought this is... No, this is just metal brackets I've ordered for another project. The inverter is already... So guys, I have ordered the XIJIA... How do you pronounce this? XIJIA? Sorry for destroying your name. So I've ordered the XIJIA 3000 watt pure sine wave inverter with a peak load of 6000 watts. XIJIA, why do you put 10 fuses in your inverter box? I don't know, it doesn't say in the manual either. They're putting 10 fuses, 10 amps each. Are they expecting that something happens frequently? Okay, let's see what we got. We've got two wires, positive, negative. They are double wires. Doesn't say. But this is a 10 millimeter cable, so you're getting 20 millimeters, which is like you get a remote control with an on-off switch and lights, and of course the inverter. If you buy an inverter, you always have to make sure you're buying a pure sine wave inverters. There are other inverters out there on the market like sine wave and even modified sine wave inverters. You don't want to buy them. Everything you connect to your inverter later on will start humming. It will make this 50 Hertz humming sound then all over your appliances. If it's a light bulb or a motor or something, they all start humming. But they won't do this if you buy a quality pure sine wave inverter. It took me a long time to do all my research about inverters. And I always compared all the other inverters to these XIJIA inverters here. They are really high quality inverters inside and out. And I must say they are not the cheapest on AliExpress or Amazon, but the quality is pretty good. Yeah, I had to unbox the inverter already. I needed to know what kind of screws and bolts they are using here for the connection, so I could order the correct ring terminals for the inverter. Okay, let's have a closer look what's going on here. So we have two LED displays, AC output voltage and DC input voltage. We have our 240 volt AC output here, Australian, but you can get them with all kind of outputs, so the European style Schuko or the North American style. So wherever you live, you can order the appropriate socket for your country. And these are the connections, 240 volts, grounding, and this is for the remote. Here's where our remote plugs in, and this one could, well, this one could potentially go here on the outside of the box, right? That is pretty good. I can then just turn off the inverter without opening the enclosure. Very nice feature. And we've got two LEDs here, one for power and one for alarm. Have a look at the back. We've got our positive and negative terminal. I'm not worried about they've got only 6 millimeter studs here, because the surface area where the actual cable, see where this actually touches here, this is fairly large, so we got good contact for our incoming cables here. And we've got two fans here. Interestingly, the fans will not start straight away. The fans will only become active when there is enough heat accumulated inside the inverter. So they call this like IntelliFan or intelligent fan. So you won't have any noise from the inverter if it's only idling or if there's a small load connected only. Not that it matters to me if there's noise here in the garage, but it's a good feature. Well, and this is pretty much it. And these are the brackets to mount the inverter. Well, originally I wanted to order a 4 kilowatt inverter, but they haven't had any in stock here in Australia. And I didn't want to wait about 5 or 6 weeks until they ship it over from China. And they had this one in stock here in their warehouse in Australia. So I said, okay, if you have a 3 kilowatt inverter, I'll take the 3 kilowatt inverter. So good enough for me. Whoa. Like this, we've got positive and negative down there, and have the output on this side, and then we can have our 240 volt breaker here at the top. So that's my idea of the layout at the moment. I could also fit the inverter in down here at the bottom, but then all my cables coming in from the bottom here need to go around it. So I know from a thermal perspective it doesn't make much sense to have the fans blowing downwards, but this is the only way I can mount it here inside the enclosure. And you want to keep the battery cables as short as possible. You could also mount it like this with some brackets here. Just give me a second. There we go, guys. Upright position. There's still enough room here to the door, and I've got the cable terminals down here, so we've got the battery down here, so this all seems to work just fine. I can even go a little bit closer. I know a lot of people are concerned about heat inside this enclosure. We will see. I've still got the battery here from this morning's video when we hooked it up the first time to the solar. So I think, should we connect the inverter quickly and give it a test? Absolutely! Okay, turning off the main switch. I have disconnected solar first, and now I'm turning off the main switch here of the battery, and now we can safely remove all these cables. Well, we don't want to remove them, we want to add some more. And just for the purpose of this test, we are using the supplied cables which came with the inverter. But later on we will of course use our 35mm copper cable here to connect the battery to the inverter. That is all fine. So I've got the positive terminal now connected to both solar charge controller and inverter, and the same here with the negative terminal. I had to drill the terminal here because they are supplying only an 8mm terminal, but the shunt is 10mm. So I drilled this a little bit to 10mm, and now it fits perfectly. Right, you can close the box here again. Alright, so we've got the negative terminal connected to the inverter, and before we connect the red one we have to turn on our main switch here on the battery, because we need to pre-charge the capacitors inside the inverter, otherwise we are getting a big spark. Okay, so here we go. I'm turning on the main switch again, so we are now live. And if you would put the ring terminal to the contact here of the inverter, you get a big spark, and you could potentially destroy some of your electronics, your BMS or your smart shunt or even your inverter. So what you should do is you should use a resistor. This is an 18 ohm 5 watt resistor. I'll link some of them down below. And you hold this one to the positive terminal of the inverter and the other one to the cable here. It could even still a little bit spark, but I don't think it will. Oh yeah, very mild. And now we are charging the capacitors. We can hear the beep of the inverter, and now we can safely, well, you should take the nut off. Of course, you should take the nut off before that. All right, let's do this again. Pre-charging capacitors till it beeps, and then you can safely connect it and keep it connected. All right, there we go. Okay. Okay, then let's turn it on for the first time. We've got the DC input voltage. And this one is ramping up to 43. We've got 230, 240 volts here in Australia. So this is totally within the range. And 53.5 is what our DC, what the battery voltage is. 53.5. Says the Victron. 53.4. That's all right. Okay, so we've got everything back connected. This is flashing. And back on solar. Okay. No smoke, no spark. Everything is working now. Okay, and here's our inverter connected to our solar charge controller, to the battery. Okay, and let's test the remote switch. Nice. Self-test. AC is ramping up. 240 volts. Perfect. Okay, let's connect our first load here, which is our fan. And turn this one on. It works. Guys, this is so amazing, right? This is the first load we are powering with our battery, with the new inverter. I'm super excited. It works. All right, we are looking at the smart shunt now, and we can see we are still pushing 1 amp into the battery, even with the fan connected. Well, this is very small load, right? Okay, let's crank this up to number 3. We are still charging the battery. Yeah, we are still getting 102 watts from the solar, and this powers the inverter as well as charging the battery at the same time now. Okay, we need something stronger. Okay, we need a bigger load. All right, let's try out Miss Piggy. 300 watts. 155 coming from the solar and 180 watt coming from the battery now, and together they are powering the inverter. That is so cool. Guys, everything works. There's no fan activity here at the moment. Now the sun is coming back. We are charging the battery now. So this is fully solar powered. We are still charging the battery with 100 watts. 350 coming from the solar panel. 300 going into our Miss Piggy, and the rest goes in the battery. Oh, now it's even switched to float. The battery is full. That is amazing. That works so well. We need a bigger load. Okay, so the battery is full at the moment. We are in float mode, 0 amps going into the battery. And I've connected now the 2000 watt vacuum cleaner here. I'll set this to minimum here first. So we are pulling 600 watts now from the inverter. 11 amps from the battery. Okay, let's crank up the vacuum. That's 1 kilowatt coming from the inverter now. The battery voltage is dropping, 53 volts now. Okay, let's push more. Yeah. I can feel the air coming out. The fans I have turned on now. 32 degrees. 90 Fahrenheit. Yeah, both fans are on. Okay, let's push some more. $1,500 watts. 1750. It is so loud. 2000 watts. Almost 40 amps. Still pulling 2 kilowatts. It is so loud. Okay, I'll keep this one running for 5-10 minutes or so, and then we measure the temperature on the inverter again. But so far it's only 32 degrees, so it's the same as everything inside the garage. We've got 35 outside. Okay, so our vacuum is still running. I've seen the power of the vacuum cleaner goes down a little bit now to 1600 watts only, but because I think the motor inside warms up now, and well, this is a 12-year-old vacuum cleaner, so I'm not sure what happened there. But yeah, everything else seems to be fine. Everything is cool still and just fine. I'll measure the temperature on the workbench first to see the surrounding ambient temperature, and then I measure the temperature on the inverter so you can see how much hotter the inverter actually is. It's so loud in there. And the fan inside stops immediately, so it doesn't wait until it's cooled down. When the load is gone, the fan stops straight away here in the inverter. Wow guys, that was a cool test, right? That was cool. So we are recharging the battery now with 500 watts here, 10 amps, and you could see the temperature wasn't much higher here on top of the inverter after 10 minutes running on 2 kilowatt than here on the workbench. As I said, we've got 35 degrees outside now, so and the inverter has 34. Totally fine, right? There we go. This is our BMS. And here are the cell voltages of the battery. You can see they are all very close together. I think we've got a difference of 5 millivolts only, it says here. So that's pretty good after such a big load. Just reading here in the manual. So 48 volt input, oh there we are. Low voltage protection, so the inverter will turn off at 40 volt, which is 2.5 volt each cell. And it will also turn off if we have 60 volt plus. So hopefully these two states will never be reached here. Yeah guys, so far this amazing test today with the new arrived inverter from XIJIA. Well, if you look online, you can find them under all kind of different brands, but they always have the same XIJIA remote control. So the inverter technology all comes from XIJIA, but they are sold under different brand names. So I'm very impressed with this device so far. Very good. I'm very happy. Seems to work totally fine. You can actually request with them to have the cutoff voltage not at 40 volts. They have to replace resistors inside. It's not like you could program this yourself. There are inverters out there on the market where you can program these settings, but they are pricey. They are really pricey. So if you don't like the 40 volt low voltage disconnect of the inverter, you can get in contact with them and they replace resistors and raise this voltage to about 44, 45 volt as per your request. Yeah, what can I say? Now I'm really excited because now we can finalize the build. We can put the inverter inside the electric enclosure here, have the solar charge controller mounted in there as well, cable everything, and then we hook up the battery and we are done. It will be so boring afterwards. Alright, so far this review... as you know, I'm not doing reviews on this channel here, it's more like an experience I'm sharing. So guys, yeah, so far this experience with the XIJIA 3 kilowatt inverter, pure sine wave inverter. We have pulled 2000 amps for about 10 minutes of it, no problem at all so far. I linked them all down below. They are available on Amazon, on AliExpress, and also on eBay, so I linked them all down below and on my website as well. They're coming from, yeah, you can get them from 300 watts all the way up to 6 kilowatts, and the peak power is always twice as that. And I've got the 3000 here, which has a 6 kilowatt peak power. And we will run the garden shredder from it as well here. This is 2.4 kilowatts. And also the electric chainsaw here, once everything is cabled, this is a 2.3 kilowatts. These are all the garden tools I will run from my battery then. And then it gets recharged from solar straight away. How good is that? It is so exciting, right? Calm down, Andy, calm down. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all your support here on the channel. I would say we shall see us again in the next video coming very soon. In the meanwhile, you stay charged and stay safe. And thanks for watching. See you then. Bye bye.
That's the frog which was sitting under the inverter the whole day. 70 degrees. He looks a bit dry. He'll be fine. He will be sitting in the water the whole night and soaking.